Good morning. This is Perry Wilkey with Major League Trading. It is 8:48 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, September 30th, 2019. Obviously, the last day of September, the last day of the third quarter. So we got a little bit going on with that. Please give me a sound check. Let me know you can hear and see me okay. Very good. Thank you very much. All right, so let's just get to it. This is going to be a short clip today. It's a Monday, end of the month, end of the quarter. Overnight has been completely neutral for the indexes. Friday session was bearish. 5 to 10 days is bearish now. 15 to 20 days is mixed bag, right? Neutral for the ES, bearish for the NASDAQ, bullish for the NASDAQ, or for the Dow, sorry, and bullish for the Russell. Over the 20 to 60 day time frame, it is neutral for the ES, bearish for the NASDAQ, neutral for the Dow, neutral for the Russell. And for the year to date, right, it's obviously bullish. Very bullish here. Odds of a quarter point rate cut on October 30th are 45% at this point in time. 0% chance of a half a cut if we go out to December 11th. 70% chance basically of a quarter point cut and a 20% chance of a half a point rate cut going out to March 18th of 2020, a 44% chance of a half a rate cut from where we are from now. Let's look at this week's offering. So Tuesday at 10 a.m. we're going to have ISM. Wednesday at 8:15 we're going to have ADP, non-farm payroll. And that's not the government non-farm payroll. That'll be Friday at 8:30 a.m. So ADP does their little sneak peek since they process a lot of people's paychecks. They have an idea of what's going on. So they do their own little analysis that comes out Wednesday at 8:15 a.m. Thursday, we have Randall Quarles speaking. Thursday at 10, we have ISM. Thursday at 6:35 p.m. we have a webcast. This is going to be in that light session once the futures open back up. This may or may not affect it, so these are like blue star events. But just be aware of at 6:35 on Thursday when futures reopen, 35 minutes after they reopen, you're going to have Claudia talking and Claridia talking. And that's going to be at the futures, the future of global markets. So that could be interesting topic. Friday we're going to have non-farm payroll, and then starting at 2 o'clock until the closing bell, we basically have FOMC speakers. We have Powell giving some opening remarks. We have Laurel Brainerd at 2:10. And then at 4 o'clock, remember, futures close at 4:15. We have Quarles talking. So that'll be, So the big really movers for the week probably are going to be non-farm payroll on Friday, and maybe depending on how the ADP read comes in. If it comes in line, nothing really major going on. But if it doesn't come in line, this could actually move the markets starting on Wednesday. So I'll let you peruse the rest of this at your leisure. So looking back at Friday's session, we'll go through this real quick. Obviously bearish. And we were talking about if you watch the NASDAQ and the ES, what we said was you want to watch the point of control. And if they're both above or both below, that's going to be your bull bear line for the day. But you can see, after breaking down back through the point of control for both of them, the ES rallied above it, but the NASDAQ never could, right? It went right to value area high, right to that point of control, and then lost it again. And then we had the value area's overhead supply for it on the next reject. So if you paid attention to that little tidbit, That was something. And if we also watched for the overnight draws, right? What was going to happen first? Where we're going to hit 29.99, or we were going to hit the stop out for the bulls from the overnight session. The stop out also got hit first. So if you use those little keys, it at least kept you from being bullish during Friday's session. If not, allowed you to make some pretty good coin. So looking at the initial bond study, they all hit the third bear target for the day and then rallied back up inside of that third bear target. And that's why I call that the greed line, right? So you get down to there, you should be taking most of your profits around that line. If you want to trail something, you can trail it, but then you're going to get stopped out at some point on most days. Once in a while, you get some continuation. And you can see right at 11:30 when the euros were leaving, or right after they left it, is when we had our first little flush down, and then right back up sloppily into that halfway back short, broke the 61.8, and then continued on its way. So took the stops out of the for the bears, for the people who had them on the server, and then went right back down, and then continued aggressively until that last 75 minutes, and then rallied back up a little bit into the end of the day. Looking at the NASDAQ, very similar picture. You had that stop out here for the bears as well after that hike down. Nothing but selling pressure here for this. And if we look at the longer term charts, we'll pay a little bit of attention to this morning. So on the ES, right, we had this 29.36 quarter was resistance. We had this little spike high above it, just below the 29.48s. And then that's really what we came down into Friday, right? We hit this support line, and then we bounced back up. Looking at the Dow, minus 71 points, close to close, minus 161 open to close. The only winner, sorry about that, for the day was you had ExxonMobil closed at the top end, and Pfizer, Procter & Gamble closed at the top end. The rest of them closed mid-range pretty much, or at the bottom end of the range. Looking at the profile from Friday, it was pretty ugly profile, right? So we can watch 29.66, this valley right in here for the ES, and we can really watch 77.16 for the NASDAQ. Looking at the overnight session, about 16 points in the overnight session. We're close to overnight lows, but if you look at it, we're right inside the value area. So I'm really not too amped up about doing anything so far today. So far it's setting up to be an inside day, and I'm not going to get too excited one way or the other. Looking at all the indexes, you can see the overnight range has been entirely within the value area for all of the indexes. Looking at trends for the overnight session, we can see that the bulls had something going on, right? And they've lost it, right? The bears still really have nothing going on. They're back to new lows. So it looks like very sloppy work to me for both sides right now. Inside value, I'm really not interested in participation at this point in time. One thing that if we look back at the longer term chart here, we can see that after coming down here, and I still think we might need to get closer to these 29.36 quarters before we can decide if we're going to break lower, right? We need to test that level. That's why they call it a test and a retest, right? We need to come down to this level and see if we can hold it as support or if we're going to lose it. So right now we've done our little 2 step, 3 or 4 steps down, 2 steps back up, and we're rejected. We're still just in the bottom of this node, right? That runs between basically 29.48.5 to 29.77 with a little break point between the top and the bottom of that range, right around 29.67.75. Looking at the NASDAQ actually ended up breaking this 77.88 to 77.98. It couldn't really waffle between it. It cut back down, hit back up, and now it's holding below and firmly below 77.53.50. So that's going to be really, I'm not going to be looking for any bullish trades for the NASDAQ unless we can cross back above that 77.53.50 and get some conviction. Then we'll see if we can get anything more than 88 to 98 out of it. This should be this area of the chart should be a support and resistance band that's difficult to get through in the future. Looking at crude, it's just sitting here really at the lower end of what's going on. So we're right at the basically the point of control for the last 7 weeks. So right around $55. So between 55, 55, 15. So we talked about this last week, coming back down here, getting a test of this area of the chart. So now it's, again, just like the test that we were talking about for the NASDAQ and the ES, right? Do we, pass the test? Do we hold those levels and respond, back bullishly above them? Or do we hit those levels and fail and break through? So really we're in this node, and to be honest with you, we could just chop around anywhere between 54.12 and 55.15 at least until Wednesday's oil inventory report. So we could end up just filling out time, energy, and volume between basically 54 and 55. Looking at gold, so gold finally got down here and tested this level that I've been wanting to see traded between 1481.30 and 1486.70. So now that we're in here, I'm actually looking for this to trade, right? This is a first test. It should be decent. You shouldn't fall off the edge of the abyss on the first test. We should make our way back up towards 1502.90 now, and potentially, now that we've had this check back, come back up and start making our way higher. So one of two things is going to happen, just like we were talking about with all these other tests and retests, right? You're either going to pass the test, meaning you respond and you start going up bullishly now, or you're going to fail the test, and this area is going to become resistance for quite some time in the future, more than likely. So unless we get below 1481.30, I'm still bullish gold. And I'm going to remain bullish gold, especially while we're just barely tagged this zone and have responded up. So the question is, what's going to happen the next few days? And we'll see. And you can see really getting back above 1480, 1495 is going to be more of a key, right? That's more back into the previous zone. So we'll see what it has. It's got a little bit of work to do. It's kind of in the mid-range between this support and resistance and the previous block that it's been trading in. So let's go back and look at the indexes, wind this up a little bit. So right now we're inside. I really don't have any technical indication of what it's going to do for the inside today. There's really not a whole lot of news today. We'll get a little bit more news tomorrow, some ISM and stuff. So today could just be a chop fest. I haven't looked at volume, so let's look at that. 205,000 contracts, and we're close to the settlements, right? Near the settlement, near the settlement, near the settlement, near the settlement. So nothing really doing there either. So we'll see how the first hour sets up. Maybe we can make some trades after the first hour sets up, trade against that first hour of action. But there's really nothing to glean from the overnight session. We're just inside. We're sitting here, waiting on news this week. Sorry that there's not better news or a better forecast, but it's just overcast and boring looking day to me. I hope this helps. I'll be in Discord, and I'll see you tomorrow.